What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and this video is brought to you by Stark Industries. Now, right now, Stark Industries is looking for someone to go back in time with them. Now, this is not a joke, right? You'll be paid after everything is all said and done, once you guys get back, but your safety is not guaranteed. You're gonna have to bring your own weapons. Something to keep in mind, Stark Industries has only ever done this once before. So if you're interested, then make sure you guys check out the link in the description. Having said that, there's the meme going around that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is the first MCU movie. That's not 100% true. I mean, I get it's designed to be a joke, but let's say that it is true. If that's true, then X-Men is actually the first MCU movie. Here's the reason why I say that. Deadpool exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now, right? He had the little short where he crossed over with Korg from Thor Ragnarok, and then Kevin Feige and them were also like, yeah, it's Deadpool 3. His story is gonna continue on. We're not rebooting or anything like that. So if Deadpool exists in the MCU, then we also know that James McAvoy and those guys exist in the MCU. We know that from Deadpool 2 because they had a cameo in the second Deadpool movie. James McAvoy being the guy who played the younger Professor Xavier. The reason why I say that is because in X-Men Days of Future Past, Patrick Stewart played the older Professor Xavier, which was made the actual future timeline for James McAvoy. And that because Patrick Stewart appeared in the first X-Men movie, basically X-Men from 2000 is in the MCU now because of Deadpool. Having said that, let's get into the leaks and rumors for Doctor Strange 2. Now, as always, whenever we do this kind of thing, I always tell you guys, take it with a grain of salt. Do not take it as an absolute because these leaks could be entirely wrong. However, there have also been times where huge plot leaks have been dumped on 4chan and Reddit and places like that, and they all turned out to be true. So it can kind of go either way. Having said that, according to these leaks, there's some huge things going on here. They don't really address the main point of the movie, which is to say all the things that go on from like the beginning of the movie to the middle of the movie. It really just focuses on the ending of the movie. But what we basically end up finding out is that essentially Wanda is responsible for the collapse of everything, like the multiverse basically falling apart. And that what's actually happening here is instead of universes like exploding or being wiped from existence or something like that, they're actually converging, that they're all basically merging down into what's being called the Void. Now, this sounds a lot like Battleworld or the Far Shore or Blightspoke, if any of you guys are familiar with any of that kind of stuff. If you don't know what that is, Battleworld, when it originally appeared in Secret Wars 1984, was when the Beyonder basically took chunks of like places across the universe and then just smashed them into a singular planet. In the Secret Wars storyline by Jonathan Hickman in 2015, Battleworld was actually a world that was formed by Doctor Doom in an attempt to save what was left of the multiverse by taking these different portions of realities and merging them all together into a singular world. So it was basically a planet composed of different alternate universes. Now, Blightspoke is something that Jonathan Hickman created relatively recently in the stories 10 of Swords, which came out of X-Men. And basically Blightspoke is like a big landfill for dead realities, essentially, right? Realities that have been destroyed or those little fragments of them left, they all just kind of get dumped in that place. The Far Shore is essentially a place beyond all of creation, right? That is essentially the realm of the one above all. I wouldn't say it's any one of these three things. I would say it seems like it's kind of a combination of them, right? Really more Battleworld than anything else. So does this mean that it's setting up for Secret Wars? I don't know. But the important thing here is that at the end of this movie, what Doctor Strange does is he basically forms his own Avengers team to face off against Shumagorath. Now, I guess maybe this also points to the idea that it actually is Gargantos, which I still think is a stupid idea. I don't care if Gargantos is like an agent of Shumagorath who appeared in the universe, but the important thing here is that apparently Shumagorath is like the main bad guy in this movie. He's the main foe. And Doctor Strange assembling a multiversal Avengers team is designed to defeat Shumagorath. And that's where the cameos come into play. So right off the bat, there are a few that we, for the most part, suspect, and I assume are pretty much all but confirmed, right? So like Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Charles Xavier, we've seen like leaks and stills and things along those lines. I think for the most part, while we haven't really seen an exact confirmation, Hugh Jackman Wolverine's basically a shoo-in for like Doctor Strange 2. I can't imagine why they wouldn't have him there. But the cameos outside of those guys are crazy because they're way more interesting. So the first one, and one that I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are really suspecting here, is Deadpool. The last one is one you guys are never going to suspect, but the first one is Deadpool. Right now, it makes the most sense that if the Marvel Cinematic Universe wants to bring Deadpool in, having him come through by way of Doctor Strange could be a pretty comedic thing, right? One of those things where he's like, I mean, I'm not going back to my universe. That place sucks, right? I mean, I don't know if you ever saw the Fox movies, but they blow balls. I want to stay here. You guys know what you're doing. Something along those lines, right? But regardless, it could be a way for Deadpool to kind of segue back in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe itself. But regardless of how they choose to treat Deadpool, it'd be a great way for them to integrate him into the MCU through the events of Doctor Strange. It makes the most logical sense. Now, beyond that, another cameo that is leaked to appear in Doctor Strange 2 is Ian McKellen's Magneto. Now, we have no idea under what context he's going to be there. If I'm a betting man, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe has borrowed so heavily from Jonathan Hickman and the various stories that he's written over the years, Avengers and New Avengers, Infinity, all that kind of stuff, even seemingly Secret Wars from 2015, what we were probably gonna be getting is what we suspect that we're getting, which is an alternate reality version of the Illuminati, right? Basically, this kind of secret group that operates behind the scenes, effectively controlling what goes on around their world in terms of like superhero antics and things like that, right? The Illuminati is not trying to use power and influence to conquer the world. They're not the Hellfire Club, right? Or they're not like the Hand or anything along those lines, but it is still kind of a cool little thing there, right? We could see an alternate reality version of them. And it would make sense. And a lot of the rumors that are circulating out there are saying that like Baron Mordo is on that team, that Professor Xavier is on that team, and that Ian McKellen's Magneto could be on that team as well. Whether he is or not, we don't really know. It's just this leak that he's apparently in the movie. Now, there are a couple other little things here, right? Apparently, Halle Berry is supposed to return as Storm. Apparently, Eric Bana is supposed to return as the Incredible Hulk. That's where the limits of credulity kind of started to get stretched as far as I was concerned. But then they brought me back with the big reveal and it was like, damn, I really hope that's true, right? Another person that's supposed to be in this movie, as far as the leaks go anyway, is James Marsden returning as Cyclops. For the guys who don't remember him, he played Cyclops in the original X-Men movie. I'll be honest, I always felt like he was kind of an unsung hero of the Fox X-Men movies. I loved him as Cyclops. He was a great Cyclops. I mean, he was the only one that we really got for any real measurable amount of time, but he was a great version of that character. I want to see him come back. I would love to see him return, but here are the two big name drops, right? The two big reveals who are supposed to be in the movie. Now, again, I'm telling you guys, these are leaks. These are not facts, even though I really want them to be. Number one, supposedly Tobey Maguire is supposed to show up again. Now, he's not gonna actually appear in the movie. It's more gonna be like a voiceover, that kind of a thing. And under what situation that is, I have no real clue, but apparently it's just supposed to be some kind of disembodied thing. I have no idea under what context he's gonna appear in. Here's the important thing. And this may be one of those things where as soon as you guys hear this, you guys are like, man, right? Or you hear it and you're just like, yes, right? Supposedly, Nicolas Cage is coming back as Ghost Rider. Not only is he coming back as Ghost Rider, he's supposed to be absurdly powerful, like table turning powerful, like things are popping off, everybody's being defeated, and then here comes Ghost Rider to literally save the day. Not only that, he's gonna name drop Mephisto. Now here's the thing, man. I haven't heard if this is like a thing that's circulating around. Maybe it is, maybe it's something you guys already know. I have not heard that. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, please let it be true. Because let's be honest with ourselves, all right? Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider was not that great, but Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider was amazing, and I would love to see him in the MCU. But here's what I think is going on, right? Okay, so here's an important thing. I imagine if you're watching this, one of the things you're probably gonna ask yourself is, okay, that's cool and everything, are we gonna see Kang, right? Was there anything to indicate Kang's gonna show up in the movie? I don't think Kang is going to show up in this movie. And the reason why is because I don't think the events of Loki have happened yet. Or if they have, they will have happened towards the tail end of this movie. Now, I know you guys are probably like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's literally Multiverse of Madness. The multiverse came back at the end of Loki. Surely it's all going on. Okay, so here's the thing. So I actually did a whole bunch of digging around on this, right? I did like a whole bunch of research and all that kind of stuff, because even I found myself confused. And a lot of you guys probably realize that. In the videos that we made about Loki, I admitted it multiple times. I wasn't really 100% sure of what was going on, because even in Loki, they didn't do that great of a job of explaining it. Like, it wasn't one of those things where you walked away and you're like, yes, I have a perfect understanding of what's going on. Like, literally, just internet forum after internet forum was just filled with like, okay, so what the hell's going on with the multiverse? And how do we reconcile the birth of the multiverse, or the return of the multiverse seemingly in Loki, with like everything the Ancient One told Doctor Strange, and like everything going on in Spider-Man No Way Home, and like everything from Avengers Endgame, right? Like, how can Doctor Strange see 14 million possibilities if the multiverse doesn't exist? Okay, so here to kind of provide some context to this, right? So the writer of Loki came out recently and said, no, the multiverse is there, and the multiverse has always been there. That the way it worked is that He Who Remained had basically altered everything in such a way to where when the initial multiversal war took place, and you had like all those different versions of He Who Remains, one of which was like Kang the Conqueror, or presumably a bunch of Kang the Conquerors, right? The Council of Kangs, and they were like conquering different realities, that He Who Remains, as we know from the show, had basically weaponized Alioth, right? I think is how I don't remember how you pronounce it. But anyway, weaponized the giant smoke monster, right? And then literally used it to destroy entire realities and essentially eliminate every universe out there that would lead to the creation of Kang. And then from there formed this sacred timeline. The sacred timeline is in and of itself a multiverse. It's just a finite multiverse. I mean, in truth, the multiverse doesn't have to be infinite for it to be a multiverse. You could have 3 universes and it could be a multiverse. We just largely associate a multiverse with an infinite number of universes because that's usually how it's always depicted, right? Like whenever you look at comics or you look at any kind of like fictional media or even science itself, the multiverse is usually depicted as like an infinite number of universes. So we just kind of combine those two things, say they're synonymous, and roll with it. And so seemingly what had happened is that He Who Remains had basically eliminated every possible alternate reality where any event that could take place in that universe would lead to the creation of Kang, and only kept the universes that would lead to his existence, right? So if we were to take the events of like Spider-Man No Way Home, right? Let's say that Spider-Man No Way Home is timeline 0, right? Then we have timeline 1 and timeline 2. In timeline 1, Tom Holland becomes Venom, right? And in timeline 2, Tom Holland dies at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, right? Now, let's say that in timeline 1 where he becomes Venom, because for whatever reason, Venom's that important, that in the 31st century, Nathaniel Richards chooses to become Kang instead of becoming He Who Remains, that the TVA would step in and wipe that universe from existence, right? They would purge it. But if in timeline 2, where Peter Parker dies at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, in the 31st century, Nathaniel chooses to become He Who Remains, then nothing will happen because it guarantees the existence of He Who Remains and it never leads to the creation of Kang the Conqueror. So if that's the case, then it would make sense why it is that Doctor Strange was able to see 14 million possibilities, because there's 14 some odd million universes out there. It's just those 14 some odd million universes all result in He Who Remains instead of Kang the Conqueror. Now things are different, right? Now it's just totally unchecked multiverse, whatever, everything's popping off. Thought I'd add that in there to kind of clarify it. I'm sorry if it feels like I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but using that concept, you could easily say that like the Fox X-Men universe, now that Marvel Studios owns it, right? That the universe of like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, the universe of like Andrew Garfield, all that stuff, that's one of those 14 million some odd possibilities, universes, whatever that exist out there. And that's just based on the events of like Avengers Endgame, right? That's not accounting for any of the other possible universes that exist out there where like He Who Remains comes into existence instead of Kang. So we're just kind of using 14 million as a finite number because that's the only number we've ever really gotten in terms of like alternate possibilities or alternate realities, right? So we're just kind of rolling with that. But nonetheless, right, that's how you can kind of make all this work and just be like, the events of Loki haven't happened yet, right? That the events of Loki happen at like the end of Doctor Strange, right? So like seemingly when everything seems saved, suddenly it's just all these universes just converging and smashing into each other because like Sylvia killed Immortus, He Remains, whatever, killed Immortus, and like now everything's popping off, right? Or like that's when Kang shows up or something along those lines, right? And like, you know, takes people out, who knows, who cares? But regardless, I just want to kind of throw that out there. In any event, keep keep in mind, these are leaks, right? These are not an absolute thing. So it's entirely possible that all of this could be wrong. And I wanna make sure that I make that clear. None of this could be true, or all of it could be true. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section, right? Which one of these things are true? And if you could pick one person to appear in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, who would it be? Who do you want to see more than anybody else? But with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this to an end. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.